Good afternoon, YouTube. Today I am adding a PTC heater to my 2010 Toyota 4Runner. This vehicle did not originally come with the PTC heater, but it does have a very convenient, very visible knockout plate on the side of the heater core box right there. It's very obvious. If you get down here, you'll see where it goes. Today's trouble was that about midway through this particular heater core box, let's see if we can get some light in there. There is a member midway. I imagine that's for the dual zone climate, and that the normal vehicles that come with the PTC heater don't have this divider, but I looked closely and there is also knockout lines on that centerpiece as well. So in order to get that out easily, what we've done is used a butane torch, just like that, and what's called a hot knife, which I've got this long extension for deck screws, two little Allens there. I've secured a nail into this device and hammered it flat into a knife shape, just like that. And I don't know, it took about 6 or 8 different hits with the blowtorch and then putting it in there back and forth. But essentially, you cut the plastic out with a hot knife. Here's the assembly after it came out. Very easy. Didn't stink too bad, actually, so that was kind of nice. There's a hole in the center of this. I actually ran a screw into this before cutting everything and ran a string off that screw. So once this was cut out, I could pull the string and yank this piece back out. Here's kind of an example of what that would look like, just a typical screw with a piece of long string attached to it. Also, in order to put that screw in, I'd put it on the end of a Phillips bit, long Phillips bit like this on my drill, and then put a piece of tape on it. Just very gently, you wrap the tape around the shaft and then slightly around the head. So it holds the screw going in, and then if you pull hard enough, it will leave the screw in place and everything else will come out. So kind of like a magnetic bit, but just a little more security than a magnetic bit. So I wasn't able to find a PTC heater for the 4Runner. I was able to find this one from, I believe it's from a Prius. Here's the number here, 495 watts. The traditional 4Runner one is 600 watts. It's just a little less, but seems to be very identical. In fact, it is identical in fitment. It's just a slightly different wattage. So I've got some custom wiring and things to do. The main reason we're not using vehicle factory wiring is that the fuse box does not have the male terminals for the fuses or the relays. It's got about half of what we need, so reusing or attempting to use factory wiring is not going to work here. Let me see if I can get a light down in here. So here's where the PTC fuses would have gone, or relays, excuse me. And there's no terminals there. It's just blank plastic. The fuses for this system, I think one goes right here. It's very similar to this style fuse here, where it's 3 fuses in one. Let's see if I can get it. There we go. And you'll notice that it only has one side of the fuses. So the left side, those metal contacts, those are the hot side, I think from the battery perhaps, and then you'll notice the blank out, that it's not pinned on the other side. So, you know, clearly the vehicle didn't come with it. Something, just a little pet project that I wanted to play with. So here we are. I'm going to run a lead off the battery and a couple of relays. I've already tested this on the bench and connected it up to the car battery, and the system doesn't hesitate as soon as I turn the heater on. So as far as amperage draw is concerned, the vehicle just bounces right back. After doing some digging in the wiring diagrams for this vehicle, I found that the AC amplifier below the passenger side dashboard, there's about 10 different model numbers that you can get for this vehicle, and they're all different. So the modules behind the glove box down here, you can do some research on it, but what you're going to find is that the AC controls communicate to that module via CAN bus or some sort of bus system. That module does not have any of the pins to send out to PTC relays. So I opened it up and took a look at it and found that it's not capable of even doing so, even if you put the pins in it. So there was a chip. I traced the traces on the board back to and found that there's a chip missing, which would have been the control chip for the PTC heater, I suppose. So if you wanted to do this right and get really fancy and have the vehicle control the PTC heater, then you'd have to replace that AC module. You'd have to make sure that it communicates with everything else in the car. That's stuff that I'm not necessarily going to dig too deep into. Today what I'm going to do is run a couple of relays and buy one of these style switches, one of these, you know, semi-custom Toyota specific switches. Here you can see my reverse cam override button. I'm going to buy one of those perhaps, or I'm going to tag it into some button that I don't use just for manual control of the heater. You know, the AC module over on the passenger side, it's smart enough to understand how to explain it. I guess it's smart enough to stage the PTC heater, since this thing has 3 stages on it. That's pretty indicative of the double white black. Those are grounds, but the blue, the red black, and this other blue, I think it's a blue black perhaps, those are stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, or in some fashion. So it usually stages it as the car heats up. There's a bunch of information in the owner's manual that talks about that says, you know, once the vehicle hits 180 degree radiator temp, then it'll shut this function off. It also depends, like, you know, the high beams can't be on and things of that nature, but so it would be much smarter if you had that module. If somebody wants to play around with that by installing a new module and running the pins, that would be super cool to look at. But for today, like I said, I'm just going to make this dumb. Hopefully we get a little more heat out of the car. I know this is a lot of work for potentially 500 watts of heat, but I like it warm in my truck. I'd like it to get as warm as possible. I live in New England currently, so you know, having that extra heat would be super neat. I only paid 20 bucks for this. I know these usually sell for a lot more, but when I saw the Prius one come up on eBay, I said, hey, gotta pull the trigger, just get what you get. If you can find the 600 watt one from the 4Runners, that would be great. And if you can find the module, the AC module, those seem to sell for upwards of $80 on eBay right now, so I don't think you're going to get that one cheap, and that was blowing the bank on this particular project, so I didn't bother going the fancy route and taking the risk of it not communicating appropriately with the air conditioning controls and things of that nature. So I hope this video finds somebody out there who's a little more curious in this process and gets a feel for what they're stepping into. It wasn't terrible. If you know a little bit of wiring and such, certainly you can give this a shot and I don't know, have something to do on the weekend. All right, thanks.